Might be able to. There are multiple emails to
What's up, chat? Say what's up as you come into live. Tell me where you watching from. Happy Thursday? Yeah, today's Thursday.
To sell 8,600 vehicles.
All right, I'm gonna play this for a little bit as I get ready for you guys.
Unusual
Give me a minute to set up.
CTV News has gathered the data from Transport Canada's records. Canada's EV subsidy has been wildly popular, with more than 500,000 vehicles purchased through the program. On Monday, January 13th, it was paused, just 72 hours after Transport Canada signaled that the program would soon end. Over those 3 days is when 4 Tesla locations, one in Quebec, 2 in Toronto, and 1 in Vancouver, claimed $43 million in rebates.
So it seems that somebody at Tesla may have been tipped off, or the registration gaming of this may be inappropriate. We don't have the facts yet, but what we're asking for is that Transport Canada look into this.
The Minister of Transport has pledged to do just that, according to the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association. As of this hour, we're still awaiting a response from Tesla. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Coming up, Toronto police investigate the third shooting involving the tow truck industry in a 24-hour period. Those details next.
Vengeance has no timeline with the mafia.
Mark Carney is back from Europe.
Speaking as a European.
To finish what he started. As Justin Trudeau's economic advisor, he's been pushing
A steady increase in the price.
All right, chat, give me a minute. I'll be right back. What's up, guys? Say what's up in the chat as you come in. So, like I said, happy Thursday. Yeah, I'm like losing track of these days. It's like every time I pick a day to work from home, I lose a day. Because the week goes by faster at work, right? Actually, I worked from home. I didn't work from home this week. I stayed home a couple days this week, though, because like I told you guys, Monday was my wedding anniversary, so I didn't go into work. So I was home. I just went back to work today, and I'm like, dude, I feel like it's like Tuesday or something. I'm like, oh, it's Thursday. So yeah, guys, welcome to Cozy Corner TV Live. It's Thursday evening, March 6, 2025. Like I said, the year's flying. I can't believe we're already in the third month of the year. And today we are going to be reacting to a couple things. So we know yesterday President Trump did his joint speech to Congress. The Democrats acted completely nuts. And I reacted to that yesterday in live. I said that the Democrats' behavior was so horrible. It was unhinged and I was embarrassed. I really was. And I knew that it was going to blow up in the media. And today it did. So you have a lot of people reacting to the Democrats' behavior, how they couldn't even cheer for a 13-year-old boy with cancer. I knew they were gonna bring all this stuff up. I said it yesterday in the live. They didn't cheer for the Laken Riley Act being passed. A woman who had gotten severely injured, I believe partially paralyzed, because she was playing on a volleyball team with a trans woman. And I believe this person either served the ball or hit the ball, and the woman was hit in the face to the point where she was partially paralyzed somewhere within her body. The Democrats didn't, cheer for that when President Trump passed legislation. So I mean, honestly, it was embarrassing, and I knew that America was gonna react bad to it because, like I say, nonetheless, whether you like your president or not, Donald Trump is not the president of the Republicans or the conservatives. He's the president of the Democrats as well, the entire United States. So we had to learn how to be more respectful. That was kind of crazy as somebody who's in the military. I don't know about that. Colt 21, what's up, man? How you doing? Thanks for stopping by in the chat. I appreciate you guys. Say what's up. Hit that like button for me. Yeah, it was crazy. It was. And as someone who served in the military, it's like, dude, like this is like basic 101 for us. It's not about liking the person. It's about respecting the rank. The commander in chief, which is the president, the highest ranking civilian, in the land. We don't have kings and queens, so it's our president. And I mean, I just thought it was extremely disrespectful. At this point, I don't care if you voted for Trump or not. That was just, it was wild. It was crazy the way that they reacted. And I felt bad because I said, if they keep this up, we're going to have a Republican administration for like the next 12 years. There's no way that there's no way. And this is why I say they're so tone deaf, because millennials, people in my generation, people in Gen Z, they're paying attention to that, and that type of bad behavior, it was so stinking distasteful. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with these Democrats. Like they're driving me nuts lately. So we're gonna react to Bill O'Reilly talking a little bit about the joint speech aftermath and some of those wasteful findings and fraud, and then we're gonna go to Fox News, the Five, right? I like reacting to the Five a lot. They actually reacted to John Fetterman. You guys remember the name John Fetterman? He's a senator in Pennsylvania. And I said that we need to keep our eye on him because I feel like this guy is a great selection for the 2028 candidate for presidency on the Democratic side. I think he's going to fall by the wayside. I don't think he's going to get, I don't think he's going to get the attention he should. And that's only because of how toxic I see the Democrats being right now. But let's hope that changes, because I think that John Fetterman he's a pretty good candidate for presidency. He did do something that I did not appreciate. My wife watched me react to what he did. I'm not going to say I was unhinged, but I felt some type of way very deeply, right? Because of something that he's done recently. And I'm like, John, no, this is going to hurt you. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens. And then we also have Senator Al Green is being censured, which I wasn't surprised by that, because Senator Al Green, if you watch President Trump's joint speech to Congress, he was actually the senator that got escorted out. So I wasn't surprised that he got censored. I was hoping it didn't go that far, but honestly, with the Republican pretty much Senate and Congress, I knew it was going to come. And I was like, oh my goodness, this guy, like, why, Al? Why did you have to stand up and do all of that? So, nonetheless, guys, we're going to jump in. We got a couple things to react to today. So, let's get right into it. With that being said, welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Karen Smith. Call me cute. And we are on the corner. So first on the menu is going to be Bill O'Reilly. We're going to look at a little bit of some of, what he thought about President Trump's speech and some of the Doge aftermath findings and fraud and things like that, the speech aftermath. So we're going to look a little bit into what Bill O'Reilly said about that. I'm probably only going to go a couple minutes in, just because I like the way he breaks things down. I had somebody ask me, what is it that got you into Bill O'Reilly? Like, why do you like him? And it's an old interview. I don't even know if you can still find it. But if you look on YouTube and you look up Bill O'Reilly, a while back, he had an interview, and this is a while back. He had an interview with Cameron and Dame Dash, right? These are two rappers. Cameron from Dipset with Joel Santana and Jim Jones. And then Dame Dash, Rockefeller, right? Jay-Z. and all of those guys over there. So Bill O'Reilly had an interview with them, and it was a wild, crazy interview because it's like the way he kind of approached Cameron about his music. You know, it's like Cameron sings about pimps and bees and sex. Like Cameron just kind of like reacts to him. He's like, yeah, we about to have fun because I got some dirt on you. And Dame Dash, I think Cameron said, is in the interview because he just knew Bill O'Reilly's type at the time, and Dame Dash didn't want Cameron to go by himself. So that's how I got into Bill O'Reilly. So it's not like he's like some random, you know, like old white guy who I just found that does good with the news and I watch him. I've been watching him for some time. He's a lot more frail than what he was in his younger years, but I think that's to be expected, right? As we get older, he used to be a bigger guy, blazing guy, like much heavier than what he is now. And I'm not saying he's sick. We haven't heard anything like that. I just think as you get older, you know, the frailty kicks in, and it's crazy to see because clearly you can see a drastic difference in his 50s, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s. So we're gonna jump right in and see what Bill's talking about when it comes to President Trump's speech.
Here. Welcome to the No Spin News for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Stand up for your country. Well, two major stories. The president's speech, which I think is still going on. He just took a break to go out to the head and then he came back. Longest speech in congressional history as far as the president is concerned. And then you had the hearings today in the House Oversight Committee with the four very left-wing mayors that, you know, they don't think they have to obey federal law. That was an interesting hearing. We'll get to both of those things. But let's begin with Mr.
That hearing with those four left-wing mayors he's talking about. Okay, let me see if I remember because I watched this. It was the mayor of Boston was there, the mayor of Chicago was there, the mayor of Denver was there, and I think Mayor Adams from New York was there. Those were the four mayors, and I watched this Senate hearing. It was kind of crazy. You pretty much watched the GOP go at the Democrats for not working with ICE in order to get, you know, the illegal immigrants, especially the dangerous ones, deported and or locked up. So it was just interesting to see. Normal Senate hearing when you have Democrats and Republicans in the room, right? You have the Republicans asking the question very directly and blatantly, and you have the Democrats, you know, doing the two-step. I mean, whatever dance you can think of in your mind, the electric slide. That's what they're doing instead of blatantly answering the question yes or no. So same thing happened today. You know, Mr. Comer, I think it was, you had him asking, you know, if there is an illegal immigrant who you know is violent and has possibly raped a woman and or done these following things, you would turn that person in, correct? And they're like, based on state law, if the person has a warrant, you know, like they're doing all of this stuff that's like pissing the Republicans off and they're getting all mad. So it was a pretty crazy hearing, but when Bill says they don't think they have to listen to federal law, you know, they came with a lot of I'm not going to say this is real, but their findings, their evidence of how, you know, immigration actually does not have an impact on local violence. So they were saying that we actually do not have violence increasing in our communities. It's actually been going down. So the fact that the Republicans are trying to say that there's a link between immigration and violence in America is not true. That was kind of all of the mayor's stance because there was four of them that were there. So all of them kind of took that stance, you know, that this rhetoric that the Republicans are pushing, that immigrants equal violence, is totally incorrect. And, you know, Republicans aren't pushing that, but we know that the Democratic Party, with their word salad and their word twisting, they do stuff like that.
Mr. Trump last night. The headline is, if everything that Donald Trump laid out in 1 hour and 45 minutes comes true, he'll be on Mount Rushmore. They'll have to make a little space for him, or maybe he'll buy his own mountain, but he'll become one of the greats. But that's a huge if, because a lot of the things he's trying to do are very, very difficult, as we all know. And he's only been in office 6 weeks. So every president says, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do, yeah. They all do it. But Trump, he's got this vision. And if it does play out, he catapults himself way up there. The second story, which I think is even more important than the first, is that the Democratic Party is in complete disarray. Hannity locked into this today on his radio program. We have that posted on BillO'Reilly.com, as we do every week, about the disintegration of the Democratic Party in front of the nation and the world. They wouldn't applaud for people who deserved applause. They were mean. And Trump did taunt them. I mean, no doubt Trump did. He taunted them.
He did.
But boy, that Democratic Party is in disarray. And I'll get into it pretty micro here. So this guy, Al Green, a congressman from Texas, he got a lot of attention because he got booted out and he was yelling or something. I mean, this guy, he is a popinjay. There you go, word of the day. He's a popinjay. You can look it up. And he doesn't mean anything. He's not a serious man. He looks like he's something out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this guy.
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine
They say
for...
that about Senator Al Green all the time. They said that he looks like he's out of like a Quentin Tarantino movie. I think it's because the slick back hair, and you know how like it's always in like a ponytail, and his eyes are like real chinky. I don't know. I mean, I guess when you look at him, you could say it's giving, you know, Quentin Tarantino, but I'm not sure. That's kind of crazy.
Here's what he says, go. Anything. He's not a serious man. He looks like he's something out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this guy. All right? So he gets kicked out, and here's what he says, go.
I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
No, Mr. Trump has no desire to do that, nor has he promoted anything that would result in cuts for those entitlements. Now, is Green lying? Yeah. In a way, he's lying, but he's convinced himself, because that's what he wants to believe. He wants to believe Trump wants to cut all of these entitlements and give the money to the rich people. You've heard it a million times. That's what he wants to believe. So he's got to talk himself into it. All right, that's not an excuse. I'm making an excuse for him. He's still lying because there's nothing on the record at all, and there won't be. Donald Trump's going to cut these programs. He's not. All right? In fact, the programs are going to go on and on and on and on until Congress decides to up the age. And that's what's likely to happen, but not anytime soon. So Green lives in a world of his own. He doesn't matter for all the reasons that I mentioned. But more importantly, when you have the sister and the mother of Laken Riley, and they're in the gallery, and President Trump cites the 22-year-old college student in Georgia who was murdered, allegedly by a Venezuelan undocumented migrant. When you have them there, and you don't applaud and you don't show any sympathy, there's something wrong with you. Roll the tape.
Last year I told Laken's grieving parents that we would ensure their daughter would not have died in vain. That's why the very first bill I signed into law as your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety. It's a very strong, powerful act.
Look at all the Democrats. Now, we streamed this live on the channel when President Trump did this, and we had a lot of people in here. All of us were talking about it. Look at these nasty Democrats. That's what they're all doing. They didn't stand up for one freaking thing, and it was disgusting.
It's called the Laken Riley Act. So Allison and Lauren, America will never ever forget our beautiful Laken Hope Riley.
No demonstration of assent by the Democratic Party. They don't like that bill. That's tough. Then you had a 95-year-old grandmother who asked President Trump at Butler, Pennsylvania, get her son released from Russia because Putin threw him in a cell for no reason, and Trump got him out. You have an AO motion from the Democratic Party on that. Then you had a kid with cancer. On and on and on. And he sat there. And one of the really weird, bizarre things was when President Trump was again taunting the Democrats about Ukraine. Go.
The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything.
That's the Democrats clapping right there. That's the only time that they clap for anything. And the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, she ripped into them for that, and rightfully so, because she said, you got to be kidding me. The only time the Democrats even bothered to cheer, clap, or even open their mouths was when Donald Trump talked about Ukraine, when he talked about another country. So nothing he did for America, the Democrats clapped for. Not the kid with cancer, not the thing with Laken Riley, not the lady who got injured by the trans woman. None of it. They didn't clap for anything. And this is why I said, like, the Democrats, they need to, bro, tighten up. That was disgusting. Like, and it doesn't matter, like, young people, older people, in the comment section, it was wild, because it seems like the Democratic Party exposed themselves when they did that. And I said, you know what, if they wasn't on center stage ever, this time they finally did it to themselves, because now people can see President Trump is calling out all of this good stuff, and these people are literally just sitting there. I'm talking about indignant, livid. They're not moving. Some of them are on their phone. Some of them are literally laughing, holding up those stupid signs that say "must steals." And I'm just thinking to myself, like, dude, this is your president too. Like, what are you doing right now? Like, what are you doing right now?
Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
President Trump. They're gonna show that he called one of them Pocahontas. It was her. So when I watched it live, like, we knew he was talking about her, but I forgot her name too. You'll come back to me.
This is bizarre. So I wrote a message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com and said, Vietnam, left was against it. Okay? Iraq War, left was against it. Afghanistan, left didn't want it. Killing Soleimani, left wing objected. Biden wouldn't okay the raid to get bin Laden. Advised President Obama against it. So all of that is history. In the modern era, the left, Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, I was just about to say it before he said it. I was going to say her name's Elizabeth Warren. But she was the one who was, like, constantly clapping. And, like, when President Trump was like, you want the war to keep going, right? And she just, like, kept clapping. And then at some point during the speech, they cut the camera to her, and she's literally on her phone. I'm like, dude, this lady, man, like, not only is she an older woman, she's a politician and knows that there are live cameras there, and she's literally on her phone like she's a high schooler who's bored.
Most people, they don't want war. They want peace at any price, okay? But now, when Trump, and I do believe he will get this deal soon, okay? No, they don't want him. No. And it's all because of Trump. They hate him so much that they won't applaud for Laken Riley's mom and sister.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They won't applaud for a 95-year-old grandmother. And they won't say, yeah, it'd be better to stop this Ukrainian thing, even if we have to fake it on Putin. Even if we have to, patronize him a little bit. So it's disturbing to me. And you're witnessing the Democratic Party fall apart. So Hannity asked me today, and it was pretty interesting. He said, well, did you ever see anything like this? I said, yeah, I have. And in 1929, when the stock market crashed and the Great Depression kept hold, Americans were suffering badly. And Herbert Hoover was a Republican president. And Hoover basically told the suffering American people, we're not going to help you. And the Republican Congress said, nah, we're not going to do anything. You got to get it out on your own. We're not going to set up a bunch of programs. That led to 5 terms for Democrats. 5.
Jesus.
4 from FDR, 1 for Truman, okay, and then finally Dwight Eisenhower got in the 50s.
Jesus.
That was the
straight.
destruction of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
We're watching the same thing play out with the Democratic Party now.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very...
Yo, chat, do me a favor and hit that like button for me, chat. It helps the video, drives it up the algorithm. Text in the chat if you agree with Bill O'Reilly right now. He said 5, that led the Democrats to have 5 terms straight. This is exactly what I said is about to happen, but it's going to be the Republicans. This is exactly what I said to my wife earlier. I said to my wife, based off of that speech, I said, based off of that ridiculous clown show that the Democrats put on during Trump's speech, I said, if they don't tighten up by 2028, we're going to have 12 years of a Republican administration. Watch what and I told her that. I said, because literally now they've exposed themselves. You know, they're going to have to do a whole heck of a lot now, because now people have their eyes on them. They saw what they did. They saw that they couldn't even stand up for a 13-year-old boy with cancer who President Trump made an honorary Secret Service agent, right? After they had already made him an honorary police officer, because they don't know how long the kid has to live, right? He was given 5 months to live by the grace of God, which miracles do happen, people. The kid's still alive 6 years later, right? He was only given 5 months to live. So Donald Trump makes him an honorary Secret Service agent because that's one of the 13-year-old kid's dream. He has brain cancer. They don't know how long he has to live, right? By the grace of God, he's still alive. And the Democrats, they're literally still sitting there while President Trump is giving this kid this award. I'm talking about the level of arrogance. Like, it was mind-blowing to me.
Fascinating. And it's almost self-destruction, because they've got to know. I mean, you had a girl there last night, Peyton, and News Nation had an interview with her, very articulate girl, playing high school sports against a trans guy, volleyball, and a trans guy goes up and smashes the volleyball against the girl's head, resulting in brain damage.
Yep.
And you have this Democrats sitting over there going, we don't want to stop that. No, let's bring on more trans guys to play against women and girls. That's insane.
So he means trans women, but yeah, he's right. Like, meaning it would be a man, it would be a person that's born biologically male and is trying to transition to female, right? So this person is on a girls volleyball team and playing with that woman and serves or hits the ball. I said this earlier in the live, and whacks the girl in the head, and she actually says that some part of her body was paralyzed. So when President Trump was talking about passing legislation to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? I have sisters, I have a wife. I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, like, that's okay. It is worst case scenario, but I know I'd be pissed if it happened to any woman in my family. So this is a good thing, right? To prevent things like that from happening to women further. Democrats didn't care. They just sat there. They didn't flinch.
And that's why the party is unraveling. Trump's one of the luckiest presidents in United States history because his opposition hates him so much that they're destroying themselves.
Yeah, they're telling on themselves.
You'll destroy yourself. It's exactly what's happening. Now, the other complicated issue with tariffs. We just announced today that Trump is suspending the tariffs on cars coming from Canada and Mexico. Okay? I knew this was going to happen. And the tariff thing will work itself out. But it's complicated. But beginning April 2nd, President Trump said, look, Biden ran up a $1.2 trillion trade deficit. That means $1.2 trillion went out, all right, to other countries, and we were down in the hole. Trump wants to even it out. So he says, if you charge us 20% for Ford or Chevy, we're charging you 20% for Mercedes or whatever. It's going to be even. Not Biden just saying, I don't care if anybody charges us tariff. We're not going to do anything about it. I think, my God. So that's what this is all about. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if the U.S. economy is going to be impacted negatively. I know the stock market's shaky. Anybody who can read knows that. Business doesn't like it, but 1.2 trillion trade deficit, something's got to be done about it.
Dude, I haven't even been checking the stock market because it'll make my nerves bad. So I know it's going up and down because I hear the news talk about it and they're like, Trump said this and it shot up. Trump did this and it plummeted down. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna look at my portfolio because I'm gonna have anxiety. So I haven't even been paying it any mind. It's like I know it'll do its thing and I've rebalanced it, but at the same time, like it can be nerve-wracking just hearing every time our president does something. They're like, oh, the stock market did this, then it plummeted. So I haven't even been checking it because I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have bad nerves if I start looking at that.
Trump is trying. Okay, so here's what he says about the tariff. Go.
Hello, everyone. This is Joe Kudla. I'm the founder and CEO.
No, Joe, we don't care. Shut up.
The European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%.
Yeah.
China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them.
That means to get American products into China, India, Mexico, and Canada, the companies have to pay those governments.
And India is actually probably one of our most expensive. They probably tax us. They're one of the countries that tax us the highest.
To allow the products in. All right? Trump says, all right, you're going to do that. Then your products from India and China, you're going to pay us the same amount. That's what this is about. Okay. So all in all, I think it was a big win for Donald Trump last night. The snap polls say it was. I don't trust those. But he got his points across. He taunted his opposition into more self-destructive behavior. And the happiest guy in that room last night had to be J.D. Vance.
Sure.
They got no one to put again.
Sure.
They got nothing. Midterms? I don't know. Trump's got to put a few wins on the board economically, though.
Yeah.
He'll get the Ukraine thing settled, I think. But economically, you're going to watch that. And that's a no. We don't talk enough about those.
So I'm not going to go far in that. Like I said, I was only going to go halfway through. You guys go to Bill O'Reilly's YouTube channel. Like Bill O'Reilly, he's the man. He does great. He's been doing this for so many years, well over 30 years. And his commentary is great. He captures, I like that he captures fairly. You know, if he doesn't like somebody, he will say he doesn't like them, but he's still very transparent and fair in the judgment that he passes when he is, we can say for lack of better terms, grading the person, right? But when he's reporting on them, he's been fair with Trump, he's been fair with Zelensky, even people that we don't particularly care for, right? He's very honest and transparent about Putin, but like I said in the live the other day, people need to know that because a lot of Americans don't really understand how evil Vladimir Putin is, and a lot of people don't acknowledge that evil is a real thing, but it is, and it can be in a person. So not switching gears that much because we're still staying with the Democrats, but in a way where I'm a little more excited. So John Fetterman, senator from Pennsylvania. I've had my eye on this guy. I've been saying this. I think that if the Democrats even want a little bit of a shot at winning the presidency in 2028, he's one of the guys that they need to be paying attention to. I really like John Fetterman. I like what he stands for. I feel like he's a conundrum in a way because he's the type of guy that he agrees with a lot of things that Donald Trump says. A lot. They align on a lot of things. But you'll also see him in the street shaking the hand of a drag queen, right? So I can appreciate an enigma. And that's what John Fetterman comes off like. Like, he's hard to figure out because it's like 1 minute, it's like, is this guy really a Republican? And he's just like on the Democratic side. And then he does something real Democratic. And I'm like, John, there's your Democrat coming out. You got to put that away, bro. So he did something today where I almost became unhinged by it because I feel like it's going to mess with the presidency if he's even considered. But let's just say that there was a vote for trans women, so trans athletes to stay in women's sports, and John Fetterman, he okayed the vote. And I literally nearly lost it because I'm thinking to myself, John, don't be as tone deaf as all the Democrats, right? The men, the biological men in women's sports was not a great thing for the Democrats to run on or even try to put on the forefront of their party. Yet they did it and it helped them lose, right? We got to think about the population and where people fall at, right? The LGBTQIA plus community, massive, great community, right? But not as huge, right, as we would say the heterosexual population. So it's okay for him to be standing up for that, for the community. It's okay. Like, I have friends and family members in the community as well. And he said this on his X post. So I know this is part of the reason why the community even means anything to him. Usually with heterosexual people, that is why the community would mean something to them. Because they either have friends or family members, constituents, whatever have you, in the LGBTQIA plus community, and they care about them, right? So it's okay for John Fetterman to do that. But it's tone deaf, not understanding that this is one of the leading reasons why the Democrats lost. Like, this is one of the leading reasons. So when he okayed the vote, I was just like, oh my God, John, no. Right? No, like, no. But, like, maybe he'll change his mind. We still got until 2028. Maybe he'll come out, and because he was one of the first people that changed like his pronouns on his X account, right? And he's not gay. Like, we know his wife, he's married to, I think his wife's name is Giselle or something like that. I can't remember, Giselle Fetterman, I think it is. But nonetheless, he took that away because he knew it was controversial. He knew it would hurt him in the primary, well, in the midterms, if he was even considered. Like, he knew it would. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna like X my pronouns. And you know what? I think Fetterman did remove his, but you know who did it? And I was shocked by it because they're a part of the community. That's who it was. It was Pete Buttigieg. And I thought to myself, I said this in a live. I said, if Pete Buttigieg does this, and this is a gay man, this should already show us that there are Democrats within the Democratic Party that think that the Democrats have went too far left. Like, if Pete Buttigieg removed his pronouns off of his X account, I'm like, dude, this is a gay guy that has a husband and an entire family. If he removes his pronouns, it's not like he's not gay. He's still gay, but he's basically saying, I don't care about this. Like, yeah, just call me a dude or a guy because that's what I look like and that's probably what you're going to call me when you see me anyway. So I was not happy about John Fetterman. Like, sorry, Dutch, for my little tangent, but I was not happy about him okaying that vote because, you know, I really at least want to see the Democrats put up at least a common sense candidate. You know, let it at least be a good election. Like, come on, Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. That was not good. Like, I mean, I knew she would lose. I really did. So I just want them to at least put somebody up that it's like, hey, this might be a little bit tight, or this guy doesn't seem too bad. But, you know, I'm losing hope, Democrats. I'm losing hope.
And one of President Trump's special guests at the joint address got more FaceTime with him at the Oval Office yesterday.
What a good-looking family, huh?
There's one more thing I got for you, a big hug.
Okay, good. That's very nice. Look at that family you got, huh? Very nice. How are you? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. That was a big evening last night, right? Yes, it was.
This little boy, this is the boy who he was honored by President Trump. He was made an honorary police officer because that's his dream. And this is the young boy who President Trump made an honorary Secret Service agent. So this is the young boy the 13-year-old boy who has brain cancer. And when he was first diagnosed, doctors gave him about 5 months to live. And that was about 6 years ago. So Donald Trump did this for him during his joint speech to Congress. And you would think that this would move the Democrats, right? I'm trying to tell you Like, I can't always get people that look like me to watch Candace Owens in my circle right now, even though I told them that they should. But I'm trying to tell you, this Democratic Party, like, you cannot let them think that black people belong to them, because it's just not true. And I hate when I meet black people, Hispanic people, black and brown people that are like, I'm gonna vote for a Democrat, I'm gonna vote for a Democrat. And it's like, they have no idea that this person goes against every single thing that they stand for. And this is why we can't be ignorant when we go to the polls. If Democrats, if they really care, I'm not saying that none of them do, right? Because there's black people in the Democratic Party. I don't care, but I know some of you guys are going to tell me some of them, like Hakeem Jeffries and all of those weirdos over there. But I know you're going to tell me some of them, right? So we know this. But if they legitimately care, right? Oh, black people in America, we see you. We love you. We want to create all this DEI madness, which is bullcrap anyway. Because if you work for the right company that abuses DEI, oh yeah, I work for one of them. You know that DEI is literally ridiculous. If they really cared, why would this boy, like, how could you not clap for him? Like, if you actually care, like, see, and this is the stuff that, like, somebody like my mom, a baby boomer, that would consistently vote Democrat no matter what I say. Like, this is the kind of stuff that she misses when, like, Democrats do something like this. And she would say, oh, no, Kamala Harris would clap for something like that. No, she actually wouldn't. She actually would not. Just like Al Green didn't clap for it, and a lot of people didn't clap for it because they're so busy hating Donald Trump that they have no common sense.
That was a big evening.
13-year-old superstar cancer patient DJ Daniel was made an honorary member of the U.S. Secret Service Tuesday. Despite that heartwarming tribute and moment, Democrats turned the cold shoulder. The White House says that snub certainly may have backfired.
Democrats didn't stand to keep men out of women's sports. They couldn't even clap for a girl who got her head smashed in by a man on a volleyball court. Democrats didn't stand for an innocent and beautiful child who is surviving brain cancer. Last night was a very clarifying moment for our country. The Democrats exposed themselves as the party of insanity and hate. The party that wants to put America last.
Former West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin and John Fetterman said this, sir. Thanks for being here. Is that a sack?
So before they go to John, so White House Press Secretary Caroline, what she said, when she says they showed that they were the party of insanity and hate. The reason why I could agree with this, like, somebody might say, well, they didn't do anything egregious other than what Al Green did, right? Like, no one threw something at him, no one cursed at him. But this is why I say that I agree with her, because there was literally no unity in that room. So if you're from Russia, China, whatever, like if you're Kim Jong-un and you're watching President Trump's joint speech to Congress, and you see a whole entire party, mind you, of Americans, and that president is also their president, but that entire party is like, we're not going to cheer for nothing this president says. We're not going to stand up. What are you going to do if you're Russia or China or somebody like that and you're watching us? You're going to be laughing your behind off because it's funny, because you can see the division. And this is what I think the Democrats weren't thinking about. I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, they hate Donald Trump so much that they can't even stand up for common sense stuff. Like, if not for the people that he's saying, maybe you don't care for the legislation that is being passed, so you're so ignorant and arrogant that you're not going to clap for the people. But what about the fact that it's just being aired and that other countries can see us? Like, you're not even going to do it out of the strength of off of just that? And this is where I was like, dude, the Democratic Party is in trouble.
This, sir. Thanks for being here. He said a sad cavalcade of self-owns and unhinged petulance. It only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained.
So this is John Fetterman from PA ripping into the Democrats. I'll read this for you guys. A sad cavalcade of self-owns and unhinged petulance. You gotta love the play on words there. It only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained. We're becoming the metaphorical car alarms that nobody pays attention to, and it may not be the winning message. You know how annoying car alarms are at first when they're like going off and you're like, whose car alarm is that? And you're like looking out the window, and then all of a sudden like 10 minutes passes by and it's still going off, but you can ignore it and it doesn't even bother you anymore. John Fetterman is saying, hey, that's what the Democratic Party's turning into. We need to watch ourselves.
Unhinged petulance. It only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained. We're becoming the metaphorical car alarms that nobody pays attention to, and it may not be the winning message. I'm going to take that metaphor a step further. When that car alarm's going off, it's really annoying to everybody else.
Whose is it?
What do you think about it?
No, John's absolutely spot on. It was so sad. I kept thinking, I was watching the delivery. I had sat there before in that same situation when the president first came, President Trump came and he was speaking about energy and things, about coal and things I know about energy security we need for our country. And I was standing up and I think people were hissing me behind. And I was the only one standing. I kept thinking, that's awful. They shouldn't be that disrespectful to the president. They were hissing me, not him, for standing.
And listen, Fetterman. David Axelrod on CNN called Al Green despicable. Michael Steele on MSNBC thought Michael Steele on CNN called out.
Now they're going to start to get into how some of the, and this was funny, how some of the left news media reacted to what the Democrats did. Oh, the behavior wasn't received well on either side. This is how I know that they are so tone deaf, because even the left-wing media was like, this is like condemnation for the Democrats. We don't think the Democrats knew what they were doing. This is actually, judgment needs to be passed on them. I'm like, yeah, no crap. Now, when you have MSNBC saying things like that, and you have CNN and all of those other mainstream news media platforms saying things like that, and they usually lean left, and they're saying that about the left, that's how you know it was bad.
Listen, Fetterman. David Axelrod on CNN called out.
Look at this. This is Elizabeth Warren. What is she doing? This is what I said. I said they literally had a moment during the speech where they switched their phone to Elizabeth Warren, and she's literally on her phone like a high schooler who's bored during Donald Trump's speech. I'm like, okay, wow.
Green despicable. Michael Steele on MSNBC thought whoever got the bingo sign should be. Michael Steele on David Axelrod on CNN called Al Green despicable. Michael Steele on MSNBC thought whoever got the bingo sign should be fired. We never learned is one quote. He owned us. It's almost like whatever Trump does or say, just make sure you have the opposite over and over again. Here's a quote. We can't just be the party that barks at Trump. Until we learn that lesson, we're going to lose. He made us look like what we are, blanking buffoons.
Yeah, this is the Hill. It doesn't say who said it. It just says Democrat strategist, but with an S, so it's more than one of them. But it says we can't just be the party that barks at Trump. Oh, no crap. Until we learn that lesson, we're going to lose. You think? He made us look like we are effing buffoons. And I was like, bro, he really did. It was bad. I was like, he made y'all look very unhinged, very undisciplined, very unsupportive, very immature. He did all of the above.
Now, you're on the outside now.
I am.
You have a chance to advise in a more neutral way. Who is the leader of this party? Who's giving them direction? Why would they make such a spectacle of something that was not necessary?
As far as within the House and the Senate, the leadership is basically Hakeem Jeffries and his team, as far as in the House, and Chuck Schumer and his team, and far in the Senate. As far as a national leader who people are rallying around as former Democrats or Democrats now or independents trying to get their vote, they have to understand the people have spoken. They elect Donald Trump as president. Every red-blooded American should want your president to succeed. If you're in a position of being a House member or Senate member and you can do something positive, do it. Don't worry about the politics. It'll take care of itself. Make sure our country succeeds, and your leader has to succeed. And when you're going to be against something, do it respectfully. Do it with decorum. Not able to stand up and be able to clap on something with a human touch that had that young man, a young boy, what he wants to do. That's just unconscionable.
I think the point is you can disagree on policy.
Yeah.
And you can express
not on human,
but not on the personal.
No.
Go ahead, Dan.
On Gutfeld last night, I suggested that Democrats should just declare bankruptcy, because that way you can move forward and start anew. Do you think that they're at a point now where they realize, like, for example, I'm going to read this other one about, this is from Trump. He said the Democrats should lose the midterms based on their behavior. Republicans can take what happened last night and win any race in the country.
So this is President Trump. I think this is an expose by him. It might be his true social, but he says the Democrats should lose the midterms based on their behavior. Republicans can take what happened last night and win any race in the country. This is pretty true. Just based off of the way that they act. And the fact that he's saying they should lose the midterms based on their behavior, I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. That's why I said they better put up a good candidate. They really better put up a good candidate. Because the way Bill O'Reilly broke it down, I'm glad I went that far into the clip with you guys. Because like I said, I don't watch everything before I jump on here. So a lot of the times I'm watching something new with you guys. When Bill O'Reilly said in 1929, after the Great Depression, like when the stock market crashed and Americans were having a really hard time and Herbert Hoover was in office, he said, listen, like the country was in a really bad position. And because he let it get so bad, that resulted in Democrats having 5 administrations. 5. So that means if we went up 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 years, right? And this is how we get to this point. Like, this is why there's been so many times on the channel where I've said, like, historically, it's usually not Democrats are completely out. Like, not historically. And if we see, based on what Bill O'Reilly said, just that mistake that was made, that led to 5 terms where the Democrats had the House, where they had everything. And I said, it's bound to happen again. If the Democrats don't put the right candidate out there, it's just going to happen. I told my wife that. I said, dude, we're going to have 8 to 12 years of Republican administration if the Democrats don't get it together. We will have 8 more years after President Trump's 4, or another 12 after President Trump's 4, because right now, if the Democrats don't find a voice and find somebody to put up, there's no way they're taking midterms, and they definitely aren't going to take the primaries in 2028. It's just not going to happen.
Add that to the trans athlete issue, where you had 45 Democratic senators all vote against protecting women's sports.
Well, first of all, let's look at the country right now. You only have 7 battleground states, and all the money and time and efforts being spent in 7 states going for that independent, undecided voter. Okay, other than that, out of 435 congressional districts, about 400 are already predetermined, so there's not a whole lot of wiggle room here. With that, I just told everyone, look at this, what do you need? Can you say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake? I didn't intend to. Maybe you made a wrong calculation, and they can't say that. Nobody in Washington.
But what about the liberal media that pushes it even further than the Democrats and gets them into this position?
You cannot defend bad behavior. And you can't make wrong right. You can try all you want to. Just say you made a mistake on the border. I was preaching from day one. Are you all crazy? Have you opened up basically with asylum at the border? What's your reasoning for doing this? So we made a mistake. I don't know why they made a determination to do that, the previous administration. And
honestly, Joe makes a good point. He's like, you can't defend bad behavior regardless of what you might want to put in front of it. Excuse me, guys. You can't defend it. And because President Trump's speech was live and on TV and everyone saw the Democrats put on that display of bad behavior, there's nobody that can defend it. This is the reason why even MSNBC and all the left-wing media has come out and they're like, bro, this is a blow to the Democratic Party. This is condemnation on the Democrats. Yeah, because it's like that was bad behavior on full display for the entire world and nation to see. So the Democrats can't hide anymore. They got to do a 180 or the Republicans will take the presidency for the next 12 years.
They should be able to live up to that and say, we'll fix it. President Trump is who he is. He came in and told you what he was going to do. And he's only been in it less than, 50 days, 45 days, you said? Yeah, 45 days. Give him a chance to see what happens. He'll make adjustments. He was not elected as comforter-in-chief. He was elected as commander-in-chief. You might not like the way he commands, okay? But let's give him a chance to see if it's successful. We'll try to make it successful. And when you disagree, do it respectfully. And say, Mr. President, I think I know where you're coming for. Could I give you some input?
On that point, give us one policy, one prescription, one law that they can agree on.
Debt reduction in this country. We're in a situation now, 36.
Are Democrats prepared to go along with
They better speak up. They better speak up, because that's where they can find it. The president keeps saying, we're making these cuts. It's painful right now. We know that. There's another way to do that if you can, but if you're making cuts and you're just going at it.
Would you vote to Abolish the Department of Education?
I don't know about abolishing it, but I would revamp it. I mean, can anyone say education is attaining what it should be in America? Are we number one or in the top 10 in any category? We're not. So all this needs to be. He's shaking it up and needs to be shook up. But let's do it in a practical way that we get good results. Someone better take the debt of this nation, $36.2 trillion. Mike Mullen told me my first meeting at Armed Services, the greatest threat the United States faces is the debt of our nation will take us down before any other foreign power.
He's been saying that for a while.
He has, and he's been right on.
The debt of our nation will take us down before any foreign power, and that is very true. That is very true, and this is part of the reason why I can't understand. When Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan's podcast a couple of days ago, they talked about this, and Joe Rogan said that. He said, this is why it's so mind-boggling to me, because Americans, taxpayers should be happy that Doge is finding all of these things, finding all of this fraud in this ways, because that means that the government's taking your money and they're doing whatever the heck they want to do with it. So taxpayers should be happy, not be complaining and being like, oh crap, the wrong person found the wrong information. No, you should be happy. And it's true. Our debt will take us down before any foreign entity. I believe that. And the fact that Elon Musk has said time and time again, this is not optional, right? This is crucial. This is mandatory. This has to happen. The trajectory that America is on with its debt, we will not survive. This is Elon Musk talking. He's not saying like the rich will survive, but the poor won't. He's saying America's not going to make it. Like if we don't make some adjustments, America is not going to make it. That is what Elon Musk is saying. He's not looking out for only the rich. He's not trying to only benefit the middle class. He's saying we're all cooked if we don't fix the debt. Like we're all cooked.
And what happens, every individual owes $104,000. So if you have children, just think every child you have, $104,000 of debt. If you want to pay all that off and all of us are chipped in $104,000, it's impossible. So it's unattainable, but it's unsustainable.
Senator, thank you for your time.
Great to see you.
Whatever we can do to help.
You should stop by more often.
We need Democrats and Republicans working as Americans. And it's the American Party. We're all in
People
together.
in Washington are watching this program.
I like him, man. And Joe's right. He said we need Democrats and Americans working together, like as one party. We're all Americans, and it's so true. And honestly, I'm glad that John Fetterman took to X or his Truth Social and he wrote that post, because the Democrats were unhinged. Like that behavior is unacceptable. And it's just like, dude, even for someone who served in the military, I know that you guys were way out of step. Like you were way out of bounds. And it's like, really the whole entire party owes the president an apology, right? But I don't know if they're even that mature enough to do something like that, because they probably can't even admit how bad they were, even though you got left-wing news media saying it, and you have everyone else, you have Republicans, and everyone else is like, yo, what was up with the Democrats yesterday? Like, that was crazy. They didn't even want to clap for, like, a kid with cancer or, like, the Lincoln Riley legislation. Like, what's going on with them? And I've seen, not Hakeem Jeffries, I've seen nobody really step up and say, hey, that was a little crazy. We're better than that, and like you don't have to worry about seeing that again. No one's really saying anything. So the five from Fox News. Now we're switching gears a little bit, right? Because instead of focusing on the left so much, the five, we know that Fox News tends to be more right leaning, and we love that about Fox News, right? So the five on Fox, who I love, they actually are reacting to Trump's historic joint address speech. And if you're wondering why it's historic, it's because he had the longest joint congressional speech in history. Before him, who did they say it was? I think it was Clinton. I think it was Bill Clinton before him, and they said Bill Clinton went an hour and 29 minutes, maybe it was. But yeah, President Trump went the longest. I live streamed it on the channel. It was fun. We had a lot of people jumping in and jumping out. We were talking. I was reacting to the Democrats live because right off the rip, I was noticing that they weren't supporting their president. So I was like, what's going on with those Democrats? So it was a fun thing to watch. So I just want to see what a little bit about what the five says about Donald Trump's historic joint address, and then after that, we're going to switch gears and go over to Al Green, Congressman Al Green being censored, which that happened because of his behavior during President Trump's speech.
President Trump setting a new record for the longest ever joint address to Congress, an hour and 40 minutes long.
Look at this. Did you guys see it? Look at Elizabeth Warren. Dude, this right here, that's wild. Like, I don't even have words for it because as old as this lady is and the fact that she's a politician and she's doing this during President Trump's congressional speech, I'm just like, really? Like, that's how you feel? Like, she's showing how she feels, right? It's giving, I don't care who's talking. I'm checking my ex post, right? That's what it's giving.
Hour and 40 minutes long. Greatest hits reel of his first 6 weeks in office, plus a preview of the coming attractions. The commander-in-chief having fun as he taunted the Democrats who sat stone-faced and silent and worse.
To my fellow citizens, America is back. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years. Look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation, we must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. You want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
Elon Musk getting a big shout.
Yeah, and then I felt like it was demonic. But the worst thing probably was the fact that no matter what things President Trump put forward, no matter what legislation to protect people, women, children, no matter what legislation he put forward to make sure that America comes out on top, no matter who he honored, the Democrats did not move. The only time they clapped and said anything positive, at least, was when President Trump mentioned Ukraine. And that's why he kind of tongue-in-cheek said, this was live, they don't play it here, but he kind of says, do you want the war to go on 5 more years? And somebody says, yeah, and he goes, yeah, you wouldn't want that. And you know, that's when he says Pocahontas. So it is, I don't know, man. It is an interesting time to see right now. It's an interesting time to be watching politics and be paying attention to them. And they've always been crazy and they've always been all over the place. But just with Trump's administration, what's being exposed, how much transparency the American people are getting at this time, I'm like, dude, Democrat or Republican, I don't know how you can't be happy just at the level of transparency you're getting from the government. Like, even if you don't like Trump, just the fact that you can see line for line where this money's going. Like, you guys don't care that they sent $20 million to Iraq for a Sesame Street show? Like, that doesn't bother you? Because that bothers me. That bothers me as someone who was in the military. That bothers me as someone who served in Iraq. That bothers me as an American citizen. And it also bothers me as our country sits in this massive debt. Like, why is $28 million going to Afghanistan for a Sesame Street show? Like, really? That's really what you're using my taxpayer dollars for. Interesting.
For that, as President Trump went line by line on all of the ways the Doge crew has been chopping.
$40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
That was wild. Like, when President Trump, like I said, watching this live, I was laughing because when he was listing the things that Doge found, like, he's like, no one's ever heard of this. No one knows where this is. So I'm not gonna lie, I was laughing at that because it was funny. And some of the stuff that he said, I had no idea what it was. I was like, where is that? What is that? Bro, the transgender mice was wild. And I don't even know why it takes 8. Well, whatever, because you shouldn't be trying to change the sex of humans, so you're gonna try to do it in mice. Like, dude, the United States is wild. But $8 million on transgender mice, like, God, man, this is gonna only be in America.
Making mice transgender. This is real.
pathogenic minds.
As for the Democrats, well, they had a hard time being decent. Barely 5 minutes into the speech, Representative Al Green was shouting at Trump until he got booted.
If you're unsure or unaware of your
And
eyeglass,
that's part of the reason why he got censured. And I didn't want it to go that far, but I was like, with the kind of Senate and Congress we have right now, Al Green's probably in trouble.
Shouting at Trump until he got booted.
To 525. On a map that reads almost completely red.
Chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Green's Democratic colleagues picked it up from there, raising paddles with phrases like Musk steals and false. Others color coordinating pink outfits or straight up walking out while wearing t-shirts with the word resist. How dare they wear a t-shirt? That was my outrage. Just kidding. Hey, Greg Gutfeld.
It's good that they brought the paddles because boy did they get spanked. You know, I have to say, this moment reminds me of 1989, the fall of communism. Except this is the fall of American communism, the fall of an entire ideology and the birth of a country. I think when he said America is back, there's a reason 70, 75, 80% of the people agree with him because it does feel that way. You made an amazing point yesterday before the speech. You said that you predicted Trump would talk for about 80 minutes listing his many accomplishments, while Biden's sole accomplishment last year was completing the speech.
And that was justification for his being commander-in-chief for another 4 years.
Yeah, that he didn't crap himself on live TV, which he then did in the debate. But that was a really distinct comparison. It happened year after year. This is why it was so important, I think, that Biden gave Trump a 4-year break, just so you could know what you were missing. And he did. And it's true, in a month, he did more than what Biden has done in a lifetime of cronyism. And I said this a while ago. Trump might be done with his term in 3 months. You know, it could happen. But this common sense strategy is the most brilliant and necessary play in modern political history, because the higher ground of common sense means that the only counterpoint for the adversaries is everything against common sense, which means, hey guys, don't clap for the kid with cancer realizing his dream. Yeah. That's anti-common sense, but you had to do it because God forbid you're on the same side as evil orange man.
And that's what I thought was crazy. It's like, if you clap for a kid with cancer, like the Democrats, I'm like, you're thinking like this, that if you clap for a child with cancer, that you're on Donald Trump's side? Listen, this is why when I said the White House press secretary Caroline said that they demonstrated that they are the party of hate, this is why I agree with her. Because that stuff that President Trump is passing legislation on and some of those people he's honoring, dude, this is like good stuff. This is people that, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you just like to see good, wholesome things. And it's like, these people were acting like they were from another planet yesterday.
Al Green was a perfect hood ornament for this. He's a party with no room left except ugliness. Yep. And he is, you know, you couldn't find a better bad guy if you scoured all the Quentin Tarantino movies. He looks the part. He's a seething boil of a man. That's funny. He walked right over the trapdoor that was set for him, and Trump pushed the button. The play was, let's list all the good stuff and let the Dems be Dems. They can walk the plank, or they can read the room and change with the tide. Either way, it's a win-win for Trump. They agree with him, or they look like idiots because they don't. And the Dems, they chose evil by not cheering good things. If Trump had released, you know, a flock of peaceful doves, they would have tried to shoot them because they hate it. Last thing I'll say, when I was watching this, I felt like I was watching a movie, the climax of a movie where the hero wins, whether it's Rocky or Harry Potter, and they always show the bad guys. The bad guys just look terrible. And the reason why they look so bad is not that they lost and that goodness prevailed. It's the recognition that they are the bad guy in this movie. Yeah. That the realization is that maybe their authentic self is really, really bad. If you had the choice to cheer for a kid with cancer and you didn't, you might want to question who you are.
Dude, this was one of the most trying things for me because it's what he's saying. The fact that they had a choice. Guys, do me a favor and hit that like button. We've been going now over an hour. Hit that like button for me, guys. But this is the thing that was worrisome for me because it's like this was good stuff. That's why I said whether you like Trump or not, Republican or Democrat, I'm not paying attention to any of that right now. If any of us, like we could all right now be out in the street, on the corner, chilling, having a conversation like we are right now, and somebody can come up to us and be like, hey guys, this kid, like he beat brain cancer. They gave him 5 months to live when he was only 6. He's 12 now. He's still alive. And President Trump just made him an honorary Secret Service agent just so like before he dies, he gets his wish. And we would all be like, hell yeah, man, that's great. That's dope. Like, that's what's up. Who doesn't get happy about that? Like, you don't have to be a freaking politician. Like, you just rejoice. You have joy about good things. And the fact that, like, I watched the whole, like, even if they were in unison, bro, like, if I was a Democrat, I couldn't have did that. So, like, for me, this is where I feel like it's like, yo, the Democratic Party is mad sus. Like, because that's crazy. Like, what did they do? Did they, even if we all had a meeting and was like, you know what, we're not going to agree with anything that Orange Man says, I would not be able to sit there, watch this man pass legislation so Laken Riley's never forgotten, right? So DJ, who's 13, becomes an honorary Secret Service agent. I would never be able to hear him say things like that, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna react. Like, I hate Trump so much, I'm not gonna budge. It's like, bro, that level of hate in your heart, you gotta get yourself checked.
Yeah, at that point, like, how do you lose your heart and your joy for living? Like, how do you lose all compassion and just sit on your hands, Judge?
You know, I only have one message for the Democrats after last night, and that is stay the course, stay in that lane, keep it up, because the American people see you for what you are. You are haters. You allege that you are the party of joy and unity. You are nothing about joy and unity. Yeah. You've gaslit us for the last 4 years about how everything you want is for the American people. Nothing that benefited the American people was good enough for them. Nothing. Whether it was tax on tips, whether it was talking about a refuge being named for Jocelyn Ungary, who was murdered and raped viciously, whether it was about, the Comparator family. Nothing touched them. They were stone-faced, cold haters.
Corey Comparatori, that's he's the firefighter that threw himself as a shield over his family in Butler, PA, when President Trump was out there, and we saw President Trump's first assassination attempt, which I saw live. So Corey was there, and he was a gentleman that threw himself over his family, and he actually ended up dying. If you're like Corey Comparatori, I can't remember him, not ringing a bell. If you remember President Trump on his rally trail, during when he was campaigning, there was one point in time where they had a firefighter's jacket on stage with the firefighter's hat, and that was actually Corey's. And the media got a shot of President Trump kissing his hat. So that was the firefighter that threw himself over his family out in Butler, PA during President Trump's first assassination attempt. And like she's saying right here, it doesn't matter what President Trump talked about, what he put forward, the Democrats would not clap. They would not budge. They would not get happy. They wouldn't seem grateful over anything. And that's why I said, like, it was troubling for me. Hey, guys, do me a favor and hit that like button for me. It takes 1 second, guys. Hit that like button.
They ought to start a party, the hate party, because nothing in what they stand for benefits the American people. 80% of the American people agree with Donald Trump when it comes to immigration, when it comes to men and women's sports. 76% of Americans like the speech. Not those people. Yeah. It's like when a husband and a wife, they get a divorce, right? The wife is so angry. She says, I'm going to make sure he doesn't have a dime when we're done. The only problem is the kids have nothing in the end. And that's what the Democrat Party is like. They're fighting and fighting, and in the end, the American people get nothing.
That was a great analogy.
And when you sit on your hands for a kid with cancer who's 13 years old, who had 13 surgeries on his brain, who gets to be what he wants to be and jumps in the arms of Sean Curran, the head of the Secret Service, who was the one who carried Trump off the stage. He jumped, he was so happy. And these people couldn't clap, but they could clap for war. They could clap for more money for Ukraine. So in the end, Donald Trump was at his pinnacle. He was entertaining. An hour and 44 minutes went by like that. And there was a sense that America is back. And the Democrats had to sit there and realize that their claim of chaos and all of these lies about Donald Trump, they have zero ammunition now. There's nothing that they can complain about anymore. He is a man of his word. He delivers on his promises, and he's got vision like no president we've seen in our lifetime.
And you know, even if you don't like him, she makes a great point. There's nothing else you can say. It doesn't matter if you don't like what he's doing. Did he lie? That's the thing. Like, we don't remember when President Joe Biden and Kamala were campaigning, right? They lied a lot, actually. If you look at everything that they did in these last 4 years and where the country's at right now, they didn't tell the truth many a time, but we didn't judge them for that, right? But when it comes to President Trump, it's like he's a liar. He's giving Elon access to all of this stuff. We're going to die. Like, women and children and men aren't going to be able to eat. And it's like, dude, hold on a second. Like, first of all, the man's only been in office less than 90 days. Like, give him a minute to work, right? Like, I think people expected him to come in and wave a wand and, like, eggs and bacon just went down. Well, newsflash, people, it wouldn't have mattered if a Democrat won either. They wouldn't have been able to come in there and wave a wand either. This stuff like this takes time. It takes time. But the fact of the matter is that she's absolutely right when she says now the Democrats don't have anything to fall back on. They went out there, they made themselves look crazy, and now the American people are like, hey, what's up with you guys? Like, even if you don't like Trump, you're not going to clap for your president. You're not going to stand up and show support. It looked weird to people that don't even support him. That's how you know that the Democrats were out of step.
We've seen in our lifetime.
There's reports, Jessica, that Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in the House, had a meeting with everybody and said, when everybody behave, no props, no placards, just be normal. And that's not what happened. So you have to kind of wonder what kind of leadership he's going to be able to exercise over these folks.
It definitely was the distraction that no one needed. And on top of it, it was ineffective. Like, it's one thing if you do something outlandish and you succeed in it. It's quite another thing if you become the central meme of social media, no matter the side. That you're on, if you're hanging on Blue Sky or you're hanging on X last night. In terms of Al Green getting up, I'm not an enormous Al Green person, but I don't want to hear this from, the party of Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or Joe Wilson when he stood up there and screamed, "You lie" at Barack Obama. Like, don't lecture me about decorum, but
that is
I
true.
still thought that it was, again, a distraction from this. And I think that there should just be a rule for all future joint sessions of Congress. Everybody applauds every guest. I can't think of a person that a Democratic president or a Republican president who has brought to one of these that didn't deserve your praise. Or at least should not.
That would have been
Fine,
great.
I forgot about Rush Limbaugh. No, I'm kidding. So don't look at your phone, clap for kids with cancer. Obviously, all of that.
It's like, why does somebody even need to say something like this? Like, don't look on your phone, Elizabeth Warren, clap for kids with cancer. It's like, how does someone need to tell Democratic politicians this, that quote unquote love their country and love the people in their country? Why would somebody need to tell Democrats this stuff? Why don't they already know to clap with children? Clap for children who have cancer. Don't be on your phone when the president of the United States is giving a speech. Like, really? Are we in high school? Guys, do me a favor, hit that like button for me, guys.
There was, though, like, Rick Hume did call Trump a political colossus in his after remarks, but he also said that this was the most partisan speech I've ever heard a president give. And there was plenty of material in this for Democrats to take and move on from. Like Donald Trump saying, we're going to talk about later in the show, you know, there's going to be a little bit of pain from the tariffs. He didn't talk about healthcare affordability. He didn't talk about housing affordability. Didn't talk about prescription drug prices. He didn't spend time on veterans, which surprised me. He didn't talk about Israel. There are all of these holes that we can actually take from this and say, guess what? You listened to Donald Trump for an hour and 44 minutes. He gave an incredibly partisan speech, and the issues that you care about don't matter to him. His approval rating went underwater in the 538 average as the speech was going on. So now we have a president underwater, someone who is not talking about the issues that the American public cares about. Just go with that.
Is that the 538 that they ditched today at ABC News?
Not because it went underwater.
They're underwater.
Yeah, not at 538, unfortunately, they're underwater too. Jesse, water.
I wish Jessica was in the car on the way to the airport this morning with me because you would have learned a lot. I've started talking to the drivers on the way to the
I know, like
airport.
Tom Friedman. Don't be Tom Friedman.
Oh, I'm more Jesse Friedman here. This guy's from Pakistan. He's a fan, so I'm like, okay. I asked him how the speech went, and he said, what Al Green did was so disrespectful. No matter who it is, you have to respect the office. So he's from Pakistan, married his wife from India, love conquers all, and they both voted for Donald Trump. And here's why: illegal immigration. They said what they saw was when all of these people came into the country and just started getting free benefits, it stretched all the services in their county.
Of course it did.
Then he's working around the clock and paying all these taxes, and Biden's sending all this money overseas to countries he's never heard of. You look at
And that's crazy because he's going to talk about it, but he's like, if you look at this man, you wouldn't think Trump voter, right? Just like if you look at, there's a lot of people that if you look at them right off the bat, you would say, yeah, that person probably didn't vote for Trump. I haven't ever told anyone who I vote for normally when I vote ever, but people can look at me and feel like that. People can look at my younger sister or even my mom and feel like that. Or even a couple of people that I work with and feel like that. But the bottom line is that America was fed up. There were a lot of things that were going on, especially with the working class, where it's like, you know what? No, like, I'm actually going to vote for the guy where he makes sense to, like, what's going on in my everyday life. And I believe that the couple that he's talking about, I believe the husband was from Pakistan and the wife was from India. So that's the way that worked. And they both came here, got their citizenship legally, and they both voted for Trump because of illegal immigration. Now, what does that tell you? Now, that's a slap in the face when you got Democrats saying, oh, no, we don't have to close the borders. Just let people in. Like immigration isn't a problem. And then you have people that came from other countries that took the time to get their citizenship and do things the right way, and they're like, I'm voting for Trump because of the illegal immigration. Come on. Like, come on, Democrats.
a guy like this driving to the airport, you don't see Trump voter. You assume not a Trump voter. These are the people that are voting for Donald Trump, and it's not because of what he says or how it's because of the issues, Jessica. And last night what the Democrats did, they basically burned the flag.
Yeah.
They went out in front of the whole nation and knelt during the national anthem. That's how unpatriotic it was. They keep saying how unpatriotic Donald Trump is. They say he's a traitor. They turn their backs to all of these American heroes.
Have you seen Marjorie Taylor Greene and what she did? She literally turned her back, stood up, and shook her butt towards Biden.
I missed that part, Jessica.
I have it on my phone. Hold on.
You have this young black kid with brain cancer who wants to be a cop, and they don't even clap, or a hostage that comes home, Jessica. There are these wholesome national moments that you have to participate in as an American.
We were in tears with that little
And
boy.
do you know, I pray that he has no idea that happened.
Yeah.
I want him to, but we're going to talk about him.
Yeah, we are.
We have more to come up
Yeah.
next, a new low for the media. Some are trying to politicize this young man we are talking about, this young kid. He has brain cancer, but he is, look at him. He's healthy today, and he is a hero.
And that is the child who Donald Trump made an honorary Secret Service agent, and the Democrats had the nerve to not be able to budge. Oh, and they didn't even budge a little bit because, as I said before, we watched it live on this channel. Guys, do me a favor, hit that like button for me. It takes 1 second. But it's like, I felt horrible watching this because I know people that will vote Democrat no matter what happens. And I'm like, dude, there's no way that if you saw what I saw yesterday, that you would even feel comfortable voting for the Democratic Party. It was literally, it was a disgrace. I felt bad because their behavior told on them. I felt like they exposed themselves in a lot of ways. That was a 13-year-old boy who has brain cancer. He was given 5 months to live, and that was 6 years ago. And by the grace of God, it's a miracle that that boy's alive. And you had everyone stand up except the whole entire side of the Democrats. I watched it, and they did not move. And I'm telling you right now, it was a disgrace.
This vote, the yeas are 224.
All right, guys. So we're not switching gears too much because we're still kind of on President Trump, but moving over to Al Green's censure, which I have said I was hoping that this did not happen. I'm not surprised that it did because watching it, his outbursts, you know, it was pretty volatile, and I was like, this is not good. I just knew it wasn't good. It's not like he threw anything or anything like that. He says that the president said something and he was on his way out and he turned around and said, you have no mandate. Okay, so just between us here in the room, it didn't really happen like that because really he was already riled up before President Trump even got up there because literally as everyone's gathering, you can see it. And like kind of in his area, I was like, what are they doing over there? Like, I'm like, these people clearly aren't happy. So he said something before, but Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he kind of got order of the House so everyone quieted down. But as soon as Trump started to go into, I think it was the Medicaid thing, that's when, you know, he starts yelling at Trump and he's like saying he's saying that he said you have no mandate, but he didn't just say it once. He probably said it like 4 different times. You know, and he's kind of like waving his cane in the air. Mike Johnson, you know, hits the gravel. He's trying to get order of the House, and he does it probably 2 times. And when he feels like Al Green isn't listening, that's when he calls for security or the police officers, and he asks for order in the House, and then Al Green is removed. So when I saw that, I just thought to myself, I'm thinking about the Senate, I'm thinking about Congress, right? I'm like, dude, you're toast. Like, you're toast, because it was disrespectful. I'm like, we got a pretty conservative government right now. So any disrespect towards the commander-in-chief, they're going to take pretty personal at this point. Like, they just are. You just think about the way they handled, if you watch any of the Senate hearings on the assassination, like, you know, the conservatives were livid. Like, I'm talking about, you had Marjorie Greene. There were certain ones that were like, what are you hiding, to the current FBI, well, to the FBI director at that time? What are you hiding? Like, are you trying to kill President Trump? Like, they were going in. So this right here is the House vote to actually censor Al Green. And why I wanted to watch it is just simply because I thought the numbers were just astounding, right? So the Republican, you have yay 214. And then you have 4 no vote, right? So 4 of them chose not to vote. On the Democratic side, you have 198 nay. Now, if this doesn't show a divide in our country, I don't know what does. You have basically both the parties like this. They're both split, right? 198. Here's what I thought was hopeful. 10 Democrats said yay. 10. So that's why we don't have the full number over there. We only have the 198. 10 Democrats said yay. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? The Democratic Party might have a slither of hope there, because there's at least 10 individuals within the Democratic Party that felt like what Al Green was very disrespectful. He was way out of line, and that he needs to be reprimanded for it. Now, to what degree, we'll find that out. But there were at least 10 Democrats that were like, yeah, we agree with the Republicans on this. And that was pretty hopeful. So, short clip, we're just going to take a look at it, and then we're going to go into House Speaker Mike Johnson talking about Al Green's censure and how he actually takes no joy in doing this. You know, he says it. He's like, I tried to get order in the House. You know, it didn't work. He's like, but we don't take any joy in this. But what happened is not something that can continue to happen. And he's right.
On this vote, the yeas are 224, the nays are 198. 198 yeas are 100. Vote the yeas.
So I'll read this real quick for you guys. It says, House votes to censure Rep. Al Green. Group of Dems defy Speaker Mike Johnson's order to clear out. So it's like, this is the only part where I'll say, like, what Al Green did was one thing at first. This right here I didn't like. So we got this from C-SPAN. They covered this about 9 hours ago. It seems like they moved like to censoring him like right away after, shortly after. Basically the same thing he gets in trouble for, he does again. And that's what you guys are gonna see here with Mike Johnson. He literally gathers with a group of people in the front and they start singing this song. I don't know if it's like a We Shall Overcome song or some type. I think it's something to that effect that Al Green actually said that they started saying. And I just thought to myself, dude, you got in trouble for having an outburst like this, and then you're gonna literally watch the House vote to get you censored, and then you're gonna go and start and sing a song like that. I'm like, dude, this guy, he just doesn't learn.
These are 224. The nays are 198, with 2 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the will? By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith.
So, in case you guys can't see it, this is what's happening. Speaker Mike Johnson is up here and he's speaking from the position he's normally in. He asks Al Green to come to the front, right? Al Green comes to the front, and instead of facing the Speaker of the House in the House, right, he faces everybody else. So he's facing, you know, the audience, for lack of better terms. And then these group of people start to go over there with him, and they all gather, and he starts to sing We Shall Overcome. This is where I was like, this part I do not agree with. You've already done something to get yourself in trouble, and now you're in a position, in a process of being reprimanded, and this is how you act. I remember at boot camp, a drill instructor said something to me that was so simple, but it stuck with me like forever. It's not how you act when you get into trouble, it's how you act afterwards, right? Okay, so it's a big deal how you act after you get into trouble. And the fact that this is what he did, I'm like, dude, you're gonna get kicked out. like you're gonna get kicked out. He shouldn't be surprised if it happens.
Present himself in the will of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. The House to come to order. Clear the well, please. Clear the well. The House has to continue its business. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
So I thought the way that they handled that was pretty cool.
So today's the day.
I was pretty taken back by that. I didn't expect. Now I know Al Green could be a little rebellious, to say the least, but I really didn't expect him to take that stance. And I was disappointed that he did. You know, I'm like, dude, they can vote you out. You're gonna go before the Republicans too for a censure. I'm like, dude, they're gonna eat him up. They're gonna eat him up. Like you got people like there's certain people that during Senate hearings they just tend to stand out to me, and I'm like, this is not going to be good. If Byron Donalds is there, this is going to be horrible. If Marjorie Green Taylor's there, this is going to be really bad, right? Like there's just certain ones that I'm just like, dude. There's like two. If Nancy Mace is there, not a good day, right? So I'm just like, I don't know, but he said that if he had to do it again, he would, right? So there comes a point in time, right, where we're going to choose what hill we're going to die on. This might be the hill for Al Green. He might just be willing to die on this hill, and it seems like he is. So right here, we're going to listen to Speaker Mike Johnson talk about Al Green being censured and how he just did not enjoy it, you know, but it's a process that they kind of have to follow because it's just not something that can take place. So not switching gears so much, but let's take a look at this clip by Mike Johnson.
CEO abolishing the Department of Education.
I haven't had a chance to review it yet, but I'll tell you that the more we push control of education down to parents and local school boards and authorities, the better off we are. And I think it's an important innovation.
How do you feel about this?
I feel confident. I think we'll get it done.
How do you feel about this vote on the privilege resolution to censure Green?
Let me step over here and I'll tell everybody at the same time that, no, it's okay. Listen, we take no pleasure in this. I gave repeated warnings to Representative Green to stand down and to sit down, and he refused to do it. He chose to deliberately violate House rules in a manner that we think is probably unprecedented in history, interrupting the message of a president of the United States who is an honored guest. I think this expeditious vote of censure is an appropriate remedy. Many of our colleagues have argued it should go even further, but I hope that he will acknowledge his mistake. And I encourage all the Democrats to join us in this vote. If they have any hope of, restoring the people's trust, they all say they care about this institution. I think they ought to join us in this. I think this is appropriate. I hope it goes smoothly this morning. And as the Speaker of the House, I take no pleasure in making history like this. I want us to have proper decorum. I want us to maintain really the great tradition of this institution, and these things.
And you see, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, he said it. He said there were some colleagues that said that the disciplinary action should actually go further, but he's hoping that he acknowledges his wrongs.
Tradition of this institution, and these things do damage to it, and I'm sorry that it happened.
Can I ask you, do you think you'll need Democrats this year?
I believe we'll pass it along party lines, but I think every Democrat
they
should
are
go to the CR. It is a fundamental responsibility we have to fund the government. And a clean CR with a few minor anomalies is not something that they should vote against, so we'll see what they do.
Thanks, guys.
So there you have some people in the press asking about.
A clean CR, it is a fundamental responsibility. And I'm sorry that it happened.
Can I ask you, do you think you'll need Democrats this year?
I believe we'll pass it along party lines, but I think every Democrat should vote for the CR. It is a fundamental responsibility we have to fund the government. And a clean CR with a few minor anomalies is not something that they should vote against, so we'll see what they do.
Thanks, guys.
So they're talking about a CR there. For those of you that don't know, it's a continuing resolution. So it's basically about funding the government, and Mike Johnson is just saying that, there are no Democrats that should vote against that because it's our responsibility, to fund the government. And he wants it. I saw this about a day ago. He says that he wants it to continue so Doge can continue to find their findings, and in that, the way the government will save money is that they will stop funding those entities that were receiving money that shouldn't be receiving it. So he wants to get a clean CR, and he's saying that there should be no Democrats that would vote against that. After yesterday's performance with the Democrats, I don't have a lot of hopes. But I'm hoping that they would not be willing to shut the government down. But the reason why I know that they would, now listen to what I'm about to say, is because every single time that they have been asked about a government shutdown, their response is always, we can't shut the government down. That's always the Democrats' response. You can literally go fact check me and look it up. That's what they say. We can't shut the government down. We don't have the House. We don't have the Senate. We don't have Congress. We don't have a Democratic president. So if the Republicans want the government to stay open, like Jasmine Crockett was one of the people who said this, good luck with that. Like, we can't shut the house down. We don't have the power to shut it down. Okay, they actually do, so I don't know where they get that from. But this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about. They're being divisive. So this is why when it comes to the Democratic Party, I'm saying I don't have a lot of hope. Second to last clip, guys, we have U.S. pausing tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico for 30 days. Is this a W for Canada? I believe so. I hate that it's only 30 days. As I've talked about on the channel before, we love our Canadian friends, right? Canada's always been a friend of America, so I hope that this can work out. But I have also said that I hope that Canada can understand, because it's not like President Trump is coming in and he's like, I want to destroy our best friend Canada. We are in a lot of debt. Like, we are in a lot of debt because our last administration was not great, and President Trump and Elon Musk see the severity of this situation, and they are trying to work hard and fast. And I'm just hoping that countries that are our allies can understand if they were in this situation, their leaders would have to do the same exact thing, you know. And we are in a bad situation. Elon Musk has said time and time again, the trajectory that America is on with its finances is not good. Like, we will not make it. The country will go bankrupt. And he's like, America can't go bankrupt, you know. So I think we need to have a little bit of respect for what our government is doing. Yes, this is coming from someone who served in the military. And because of that, like, yeah, there's certain things that I think are just utterly ridiculous to just do to people who are in power. Some of that also comes from me being a Christian. I mean, there are certain things that I'm held to as a Christian for people who govern over me. So check it out in Romans 13 if you want to fact check me. But Romans 13 talks about submitting to governing authorities. Those governing authorities are people who govern over you, which would be your boss, police officers, firefighters in certain situations, the president, right? Your politicians. So any rulers of your land is what the Bible would say. But here in America, we don't have rulers, but in some countries it's that. So yeah, some things I think to do to your president, your commander in chief, the leader of your country, I think it is utterly ridiculous. And I think Americans sometimes have fun with those boundaries being crossed, because see, in other countries, you can get killed for that. Like, you can get executed for doing something like that. But because in America, you know, we have all of our freedoms and our rights, like, people take advantage of things like that. But literally, and there's other countries that Al Green would have done that, and someone could have shot him in the head, and the meeting would have proceeded. Like, nothing just took place. So, you know, I know this from being in the military and living in other countries and learning that in other countries, what Americans wouldn't deem as disrespectful, other countries find disgraceful. So this is something that I know America just doesn't understand about the massive freedoms and rights that we have. So I do hope everything works out for our Canadian friends. I hope that they can understand, excuse me guys, I hope that they can understand that President Trump is just in a really bad position, and he has to do what he has to do. But, you know, when you look at people in Canada like Doug Ford, who is living with President Trump about the tariffs, and Doug Ford's like, I will cut your energy off with a smile on my face. You know, he's like, listen, I get that America's in trouble, but it shouldn't come after its friend. You know, I get what he's saying, and I don't think that Donald Trump is coming after. I could also use the perspective of, as a friend, you should understand, but that could be subjective, right? So let's take a look at CTV News captured this. Again, U.S. pausing tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico for 30 days. I believe that this is a W for Canada. Unfortunately, we have to see again what happens after 30 days, which is probably very nerve-wracking for the people of Canada. So let's take a look.
All right, CTV's chief political correspondent Vashi Kapelos is standing by with more. And Vashi, we are getting some breaking news that Trump is now delaying these products on Canada as well as Mexico. Really a whirlwind trying to cover all this. Where do things stand right now?
Yeah, it certainly is, Scott. And if I could break down kind of this breaking news as it comes into our newsroom, just to give some context around it. So at the moment, the president is in the Oval Office signing a number of executive orders. There's a small pool of reporters and camera people who are allowed in for that. It's not broadcast live. It's actually sent out after the whole thing is completed. So just to be clear, we have not seen with our own eyes the president say this or sign this, but both Reuters and Bloomberg, who appear to have
people in the room while the president is either making this pronouncement or signing that executive order have now publicly reported that that is the case. That in effect, what the president announced earlier today would apply to Mexico. So that means all products covered under USMCA are now exempt from the very tariffs he applied just 2 days ago for 30 days, for a 30-day period. That is my understanding of exactly what he announced for Mexico. And so it appears, according to Reuters and Bloomberg, that's what he's announced for Canada as well. 95% of what we trade with the United States, my understanding is, according to some trade experts we spoke to in this newsroom, is covered, right, by USMCA. So this basically is a complete walk back for the next 30 days. What we don't know is the details in the content of that executive order. So is it predicated on either Canada or Mexico doing something? Are there details about when they might be coming back into force, things of that nature? We don't have the answers to those questions. We essentially just have the headline, which is what Howard Lutnick signaled in that clip earlier today, which is that there appears to be a 30-day reprieve or a pause on these tariffs for most of what Canada and Mexico trades with the United States. Whether that means our counter tariffs are ratcheted down or there's a change in Canada's response, we wait to hear from the federal government.
And Vashti, just to bring our viewers up to speed as well, you mentioned we don't have the video yet of Trump announcing this or signing these orders, but we will bring that. We will broadcast that as soon as it is available. I also wanted to get your thought on the phone call between the Prime Minister and the President. We're hearing some words calling it colorful or...
And I was actually able to see it before they captured this because Donald Trump was finished about 44 minutes ago when I first saw it. So I was able to see a YouTube short of him actually signing what they're saying that they haven't aired yet. So by now they could have aired it, but I just wanted to react to the initial part of it, which was about 5 hours ago. Like I said, I think this is a W for Canada, but again, there are some things that are sketchy, like they don't know the details of it, right? So does Canada have to do something before President Trump gives them the 30 days, or is Canada asking something of the United States first? We don't know the details, but I think it's going to be a completely lifted one, in the sense of the tariffs will come completely up, but it will just be for that 30-day period. I don't think he's going to partially lift it, if that makes sense. So that's why I say completely. He could, it could be something like we're going to lift 50% of what we said, but we're not even seeing that. And even since I've been on here with you guys, I haven't seen anything come through on my phone or any of my devices showing an update where maybe President Trump is saying, I'm only going to minus 15% of the original number. It seems like he would lift the tariffs completely and that it would remain lifted for 30 days, but they would be back at the negotiating table after 30 days, which, like I said, if I was a Canadian right now, I would be happy for the 30 days, take everything day by day, right? Because we don't know what tomorrow holds. But at the same time, it's a little bit anxiety filled, because it's is Canada going to be in a really bad situation? I heard one guy from Canada talking on the news, and he was saying that, Canada needs to look at other options. The U.S. is not their only option. He said certainly China's not the best option, but they can consider it. I said, yeah, right. If you do business with China, good luck.
Heated, really kind of read between the lines for us, between what those words mean in terms of that phone call.
Well, I think it's no secret to Canadians and probably Americans by this point alike that there is a complex relationship, I guess you could say, between the president and the prime minister. That call yesterday, you mentioned 50 minutes in length. The Wall Street Journal was the first to report that there was profanity involved on the part of the president, and in particular that things got heated around the issue of dairy. Of course, supply management, the supply managed sector in this country has long been an irritant between our two countries, but negotiations around it were also part of USMCA. So I'll put that.
I think Justin Trudeau said when they asked him how was your call with President Trump, I think he said it was colorful but substantive. I was like, wow, what a play on words.
Aside for a second, I don't know whether there has been a conversation as of yet today, but the president did reference a conversation he had with Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, today in order to decide to put off those tariffs. Again, all we heard from the prime minister was confirmation that the call was colorful, but that part of the prospect of this pause, this 30-day pause on goods covered by USMCA, or the new NAFTA, does align, was the wording I believe he used, with what was discussed between the president and himself. So lots more to come, I anticipate, around how this all unfolds. But right now, like I said, we have the headline, there's a pause on those tariffs. And again, let me say this, they were just put into place 2 days ago, and already, first it was the auto sector yesterday, today it's basically everything covered by a free trade agreement between our three countries, now rolled back for another month. Very curious to see what happens with the markets. When Howard Lutnick made that comment this morning, they shot up almost instantaneously after he said that. Then they were back down on more uncertainty. So, like I said, much more to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, like I said a little bit earlier in the live, I have not been keeping my eyes on the stock market because I have bad nerves. You heard what she just said? When Trump makes one decision, they instantly shoot up. When he makes another decision, they instantly plummet. So I have not been watching the stock market on purpose. Yes, I'm invested. I've rebalanced my portfolio. I'm not worried about it because I don't tend to watch it. Even with the last administration, I don't watch it like a hawk, right? So I'm just not that person. But I'm for sure not going to watch it during times like this when it's going up and down like that, because that'll just give me bad nerves.
As we said, quite a whirlwind, trying to keep track of all of this, and Vashi also waiting for a response for what this means in terms of counter tariffs as well. Yeah. CTV News Chief Political Correspondent Vashi Kapellos, greatly appreciate you breaking down this breaking news for us. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so what I think is interesting about the call is that obviously it was able to do it. Obviously, it had some impact, right? Obviously, I think on both sides, President Trump and the Prime Minister of Canada can see that the relationship is valuable. Even though both parties can go a different way, they seem to want to work together. So I am encouraged by that. That's why I am hoping that everything works out once again for our Canadian friends. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like on President Trump's side it's a relationship he wants to sever. Because honestly, we know President Trump, right? If he wanted to do that, he would just be like, no deal, you have tariffs. Like, it's not like we haven't seen him draw a hard line in the sand before. We have. So with that being said, guys, I'm hoping everything works out for Canada. 30 days, take it one day at a time, guys, literally. For those of you that are Christ followers, here we go. We always end our live with a clip from Cliff Buell, and those of you that are followers over in Canada, one day at a time. Jesus says that don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow has enough worries to worry about itself. So there's no reason for you to even think about, well, what's going to happen on day 31, God will take care of what's going to happen on day 31. And sometimes I know that's easier said than done. But the good thing about it is as Christians, we can be encouraged, right? We can pray and we can say, Lord, well, I'm having a weak moment here and I just don't trust my prime minister or the country at all. So I need you to encourage me. And then sometimes we have to encourage our own faith, right? We have to wake our own faith up within ourselves. We see David do that to himself in the Bible throughout the Psalms. Numerous times David is encouraging his own faith. He's commanding his own soul to praise God. So we see that in scripture. And sometimes we have to do that. I like the way Tim Ross says that we have to activate our own faith, especially when we look around us and it's like things are just horrible. Does that mean like look inside yourself and you could be your own God? No, you can't be your own God. I'm not that person. So I'm not even going to endorse or subscribe to that. But what that does mean is that in scripture, we see David commanding his soul to praise God when he's going through hard times. And sometimes that's what we have to do. So with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about Jesus ending our clip today. So to the black and brown community, right? Hispanics, Asians who are from some other sort of ethnic descent as well, just in general. This talk about, there being a black Jesus. I have had these talks with many people, especially people that come from the background of Hebrew Israelites, right? They have this belief. They actually have what I believe is a very treacherous, grotesque belief, because they just believe that all white people are evil and that you know, that the reason why black people have been exalted is because the evil things that white people have done throughout history. A very misconstrued view of God, right? And for some reason, I think throughout my time of interacting with Hebrew Israelites, especially down in Philadelphia, a lot of them are around there. They will think that because I'm black, I will automatically, or rather mixed, that I'm automatically going to buy into their theology. And there's been so many times where I've had to say, friend, you simply just don't know who Jesus is, just based on what your belief about God is. To think that all white people are inherently evil would be the same thing as if a white person were to say all black people are inherently evil, right? I wouldn't agree with either one. That's just ridiculous. So if we want to say inherently evil from a scriptural standpoint, sure, because we see that in the book of Genesis. The Lord actually says that humans are evil and we have evil thoughts from the moment that we're born. Like, that's actually in the Bible about human beings, right? But to be a Hebrew Israelite and to say that God hates all white people and that all white people are going to hell, I would absolutely say that you do not understand who Jesus is, nor do you understand anything about the Bible, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I have white friends and family that I love. It just has everything to do with the fact that based on scripture, you're wrong. Like, that's just not what it means. So I've had to have these conversations with Hebrew Israelites, and I'm challenged a lot because they think that because of what they see the white person has done in history, they believe that God is going to punish them for all eternity. And they don't understand scripture. Again, there's no sin that anyone has done, first of all, that the Lord's blood does not cover. That's first and foremost. So someone can be like, well, slavery and rape and incest, and it's like, yes, I'm not going to say unfortunately, but if these people decide to give their life to Jesus Christ and they repent, they are granted access to heaven. Whether you agree with it or not, you're not the judge, so it doesn't really matter. You or I are not the judge. But a lot of people have this thing misconstrued when it comes to race about God. Jesus is a Jewish man. I say is because Jesus is not dead, right? As a Christian, that's my belief. Now, does that mean that Jesus was a really, really fair, light-skinned white Jewish man? Probably not, because the way scripture describes him, it doesn't describe him like that. Just the way scripture talks about his hair wouldn't be extremely straight. Not to the point where you can put a comb straight through it, because the Bible actually does give a description of Yeshua's hair, right? So with that being said, I thought that this clip was extremely important because not only is this pastor a black pastor, but he's honest about scripture. I'm very honest about scripture whenever the Lord has given me the opportunity to preach. So I don't twist scripture so it can fit me. Even if I wanted it to fit me, the Holy Spirit wouldn't allow me to do that. Not if I'm actually trying to follow the Lord, right? Jesus was a Jewish man. He was an ethnic Jew. He grew up around the Torah. He grew up knowing his Jewish customs. Anything that Jews today know and practice and have been practicing for thousands of years historically, Yeshua would know this. So we're going to take a look at this clip. This is from Pastor Anthony Phillips. He's from Church 2819, complimenting the verse Matthew 28:19. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations. And I think this pastor covers it lovely about Jesus not being black. Oh, and with that being said, Jesus is also not white. Like I said, he's a Jewish man. So let's take a look at what he says.
Jesus was not black, and I'm so glad that we have preachers who will stand on truth. Listen to this.
I saw this well-known preacher. He was preaching that Resurrection Sunday, the death, burial, and resurrection that they preach about was all about the persecution of a black man, and that how Jesus was a black man, and that his evidence that Jesus was a black man was because he didn't get a fair trial by the Roman government, and that he used that to begin to manipulate the black men in the room and start declaring no weapon formed against the the black men will prosper. And all of this Marxist, fascist nonsense that he was spewing from the pulpit. And I was watching as men stood up in the room and they're shedding tears over this nonsense. And my heart is broken because I'm thinking, man, what you're hearing right now in this moment is not even consistent with the word of God. I know some of you got him hanging on your wall, a black man with locks, but Jesus was not a black man. We know from history and we know from the word of God that Jesus was an ethnic Jew, and he was born into a family of ethnic Jews, and he was raised around the Torah, and he learned the things of Jewish family, and he went.
Jesus was not black.
And he went to the synagogue. That was the last thing he was going to say. See, I know that a lot of people watch me. I know the demographics of my channel. And so, like, I would say surprisingly, but a lot of older people watch me, like older people. And when I say older, I mean, I love my age people. Like, you gotta love the saints, right? The older saints is what we call them in the church. But 65 and plus, which I feel honored by that audience, right? Because I've always felt like you can only captivate wisdom with wisdom, right? People who have been living, they don't listen to rubbish, right? Like my mentor at work says, a world-renowned baby boomer, because I love that generation. He always says that his dad used to tell him, which would be the silent generation, you could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, right? So, and that refers to BS. And I love the fact that Pastor Anthony Phillips is honest. He says, we know that Jesus was a Jewish man. He was an ethnic Jew. He grew up in a Jewish family. He grew up around the Torah. He grew up going to the synagogue. He would have known all the Jewish customs. He would have participated in all the Jewish customs and tradition of the day. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. You see, this whole thing about the Gentiles being engrafted into the family of God is actually a great thing. And this is why I've had these conversations with my wife about Christians, whether they have biological children or not. I never understand why the spirit of adoption is not heavy on Christians. Now, I have learned that it takes a certain type of person and a special person to adopt, to care for a child that is not their own child and not abuse it and actually love it. But as Gentiles, which we would all be, especially not being of Jewish descent, like, we've been engrafted and adopted into the family of God. So the fact that we've been adopted into that family, I always feel like when Christians see children that have no parents or no one to take care of them, that should be something that they take heed to, that they stop and they pay attention to. And they're always asking themselves, like, Lord, do you want me to adopt this child? Do you want me to adopt these children? It's a hard question to ask because you flip your life upside down and things are not the same. You give up your time, you give up your freedom. And oh, by the way, it's not your biological kid. But just thinking about adoption and being adopted into the family of God, and that God looks at me like his child, even though I'm not a person that came from, direct Jewish descent, or I'm not a person, that was counted in Jesus's time to the point where I followed all Jewish tradition and I was at least a part of a Jewish family. So it was a complete adoption, me being a Gentile and being allowed to be in the family of God. And that's why I always think as Christians, as followers of Christ, we should always have adoption on our hearts. We should always be willing to open our households to a child that doesn't have a home or doesn't have someone to take care of them. And I just think that that's something that has been a conviction that Christ has put on me and a couple of people that I personally have known. I just think as Christians, that's something that we need to take more seriously and really be taken into consideration if it's something that God wants us to do. It's not easy to take care of someone else's child, especially if it's not your biological child. But if God trusts you and he feels like that you can give that child an opportunity, and without you, that child would have not made it, not succeeded, not seen certain things in life, then I definitely think it's something that we need to take into consideration, because God didn't have to adopt us, right? He could have just came and, like Jesus says to the Syrophoenician woman, which is just a fancy word for the Greek woman, right? I only came for the people of God. So at some point, Jesus actually answers the woman and says, listen, I only came for my people, for the children of God, for Israel, right? And then the woman refers herself to, basically, if you were breaking down scripture in a way where you were teaching it, you could say like a house dog, almost like a puppy. And she says, well, sir, even, the dog gets crumbs from the master's table. And because of this woman's faith, Jesus grants her request. And I think that that's a big thing, you know, like we have to look at that like, you know, man, Jesus could literally have counted us out. He could have not even considered us. And the fact that we get to be counted in, I think that we need to take into consideration orphans and widows, which scripture says that's real faith, right? To look after the widow, to take care of the orphan. So I hope that that sticks with you guys. You know, if you want, you guys go to the end of the live, because that's where you can always find a Christian clip and share it with somebody. I know sometimes it's hard to share our faith with people because they might make fun of us, or they might, you know, laugh at us or say, oh, I don't believe in that stuff. It's 2025. It doesn't matter. Share it anyway. Everybody needs to be saved. One thing we all have in common is that we're all going to punch the ticket of death. This is what I love. Like, I don't care. I love when my atheist friends are like, well, you know, there's nothing after we die. Or if I'm wrong, then maybe I've done enough stuff, enough good stuff to get to heaven. Well, yeah, right. You didn't. It doesn't work like that. Like, somebody died. So you can do all of the good stuff that you want to do. When someone's already shed blood, your good stuff is as good as Skubalen, trash in German, basically. Like rubbish. So at the end of the day, this is why Jesus is here, and this is why I love him. This is why at the end of my lives, I share him with you guys, because I want you to take somebody else to the end of the live and say, hey, listen to this. You don't know who you're going to have an impact on. You don't know who this is going to help. So until next time, guys, which is tomorrow, which is we're going to be live on a Friday, every single day except Sunday. Tomorrow, March 7th, we will be live. I will be live tomorrow around let's say somewhere between 15:45, which is 3:45, and 16:45, guys. So between 3:45 and 4:45, I'll be live. We'll be chilling on the corner, looking at some news, looking at this crazy news in our world. Hopefully the Democrats are acting a little bit better. Probably not, but we can still pray for them, right? So until next time, guys, what I always say, take care of yourselves, love one another, and be peaceful. Peace.